It begins with rain, not a thunderstorm, not the kind that shakes the windows or floods the streets, just a soft, steady rain, the kind that feels eternal, that hums against rooftops like a memory repeating itself. Shelby, North Carolina, slept beneath that sound, a small town quiet, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, and where trouble rarely came uninvited. Street lights shimmered across wet pavement, and the faint glow of porch lamps still lingered on from the night before. Inside a modest brick home on Oakcrest Street, the family was asleep, their world still whole, still unbroken. The Degrees. Asha Degree, 9 years old, slept soundly beneath a pink blanket in the room she shared with her brother, O'Brien. Her favorite stuffed animal, a small black and white cow, sat propped against her pillow, watching over her like a silent guardian. It was February 14, 2000, Valentine's Day morning, though no one yet knew the weight that date would come to hold. In the stillness of that night, nothing seemed out of place. The hum of rain, the sigh of the house, the rhythm of safety that every child deserves. But somewhere quietly, something had already shifted. Hours before that silence, before the world would wake to headlines and helicopters, life in the Degree home had been ordinary. Dinner at the table, homework scattered across the kitchen counter, Asha laughing as her brother teased her over a spelling mistake, their mother, Aquila, preparing lunches for the next morning, their father, Harold, still at work. It was a Sunday evening, church day, family day, the kind of day the Degrees built their life around. Faith ran through the walls of their home. Bible verses taped to mirrors, gospel music echoing on Saturdays, and a quiet rule that kept the outside world at a distance. The Degrees believed in protection, in boundaries, in the safety of routine, and they had every reason to believe it worked. Asha was the kind of child parents pray for. Polite, responsible, shy but bright-eyed. She was cautious, afraid of dogs, afraid of the dark. The kind of girl who double-checked that doors were locked, who followed rules as if they were sacred. To her teachers, she was a model student. To her friends, a soft voice of kindness. To her parents, she was everything good about the world. That night, she went to bed early. The storm outside had been building for hours, wind brushing through trees, the first drops pattering softly against the window. Asha tucked herself in beside her brother, whispered a quiet prayer, and closed her eyes. Her world, for that brief moment, was complete. Later that night, sometime around midnight, Harold returned home from his late shift. He took off his jacket, set down his keys, and listened for a moment to the sound of rain. Upstairs, the house was peaceful. He checked on the kids, both asleep, blankets rising and falling with the rhythm of dream. He smiled, turned off the hall light, and sat for a while in the living room. The kind of stillness only found when the world is sleeping. At 2:30 a.m., he checked once more. Asha hadn't moved. O'Brien was still curled on his side, a soft snore barely audible. The storm outside had grown heavier, but inside all was safe. He would later replay that moment again and again, the image of his daughter, asleep, peaceful. It would become the last time anyone saw her alive. But at that hour, in that same rain, a road not far from their home carried the faint glimmer of headlights. A small figure was seen walking along Highway 18, alone, carrying what looked like a backpack. The driver slowed, confusion setting in. It was nearly 4 in the morning. Who would be walking in weather like this? And such a small child? He passed, turned around. But by the time his headlights swept the shoulder again, the figure was gone. Just gone. Back in the Degree home. Time slipped by quietly. The alarm went off before sunrise. The smell of breakfast filled the air. But something was wrong. O'Brien woke first. His sister's bed was empty. He thought she might already be in the bathroom or downstairs. But when he called for her, no answer. Their mother checked the kitchen, the porch, the small living room. The front door was unlocked, and Asha's book bag, the one she took to school every day, was missing. Panic has a sound, a sharp intake of breath, A name called louder each time. The family searched the house once, twice, again, as if she might suddenly reappear from behind a door. But she didn't. It was still raining. The clock was barely passed on, and the Degrees knew this wasn't like her. By 6:30 a.m., police were on scene. Neighbors stepped out in pajamas. Disbelief etched across their faces. The quiet block filled with voices. Officers calling instructions, dogs barking, radios crackling through the mist. It didn't feel real. It didn't look real. How does a 9-year-old girl simply vanish from her home in the middle of the night in a town where nothing ever happens? Search parties formed within hours. Volunteers walked the ditches, fields, and woods near the road. The rain made everything harder. Prints washed away. Clues blurred into mud. Still, they searched. People prayed. Strangers cried. And by sunset, the story had spread far beyond Shelby's quiet streets. In small towns, time behaves differently. Days stretch. Nights blur. Grief moves like fog, slow, heavy, impossible to escape. Each night after that first one, the Degrees would return home to silence. Asha's room untouched, her bed still made, her shoes still by the door. And as the rain finally stopped, what was left behind wasn't peace, but absence. They would find nothing that first week. No footprints, no clothing, no signs of struggle. Only a lingering question that would haunt her parents for the rest of their lives. Why did she leave? Shelby began to change after that. Neighbors left porch lights on through the night. Parents held their children a little tighter. And in the Degree home, time stood still. Asha's mother stopped listening to the rain. She said it sounded different now, like something missing, like something stolen. Outside her window, the trees swayed in silence. The same road still stretched toward the highway, and somewhere beyond it, the mystery of what happened to her daughter was already unfolding in the dark. The day after Asha Degree disappeared, Shelby, North Carolina, stopped breathing. It wasn't dramatic. No sirens screaming through the night. No chaos in the streets. It was quieter than that. The kind of silence that only follows something unspeakable. The Degree home became the heart of it all. Reporters waited by the edge of the driveway. Police went in and out, leaving muddy footprints on the floor. Every sound, every creak of the house felt like an echo of something missing. Inside, Aquila Degree sat on the couch, her hands trembling around a photograph of her daughter. The photo was from a Sunday at church. Asha in her white dress, hair neatly pressed, smiling shyly at the camera. She looked so alive, so sure. "I just want her home," her mother whispered, over and over again. But her voice seemed to fade beneath the hum of police radios and the low murmur of reporters outside. Detectives tried to piece together what little they had. A locked front door that somehow opened, a backpack on, a child missing, yet no sign of abduction, no evidence of a break-in. Nothing made sense. They canvassed the neighborhood. Every neighbor said the same thing. They saw nothing, heard nothing, except one man, a truck driver. He said he saw a girl, small, thin, wearing long pants and a white shirt, walking alone along Highway 18 just before dawn. She was carrying a book bag. He thought it strange, but it was dark. He assumed maybe she was heading to a nearby house. When he turned his truck around to check again, she was gone, vanished like smoke into rain. As the search stretched into its second day, hundreds of volunteers arrived, some from Shelby, some from other towns, drawn by the story of a little girl walking into the night. They combed through the woods, ditches, abandoned sheds. They called her name into the wind. "Asha?" Their voices echoed back unanswered. Helicopters swept over farmland. Police dogs followed trails that faded halfway down the road. It was as if she had stepped into the earth and disappeared. In a nearby field, searchers found something. A small candy wrapper, crushed and wet. For a brief moment, hope sparked. It looked like the same candy Asha had taken from school earlier that week. But tests later would say it was nothing. That became the rhythm of those days. 1,000 false hopes, each one ending in silence. The Degrees stayed up through the nights, waiting for the phone to ring. Every sound outside made Aquila jump. Every shadow near the window made Harold step outside with a flashlight. But no one came. On the third night, the rain returned. It fell heavier this time, almost angry, washing away what little remained of footprints or scent. Inside, Asha's room remained untouched. Her pink blanket still neatly folded, her Bible open on the dresser, a bookmark wedged halfway through Psalms. Her mother sat on the edge of her bed and whispered her daughter's name. She said she could still smell her shampoo, still see her tiny shoes beside the dresser. And in that moment, she realized she hadn't cried yet. She couldn't. It felt like if she cried, it would mean Asha wasn't coming back. So she didn't. She prayed instead. She prayed the same way she taught Asha to. Hands together, eyes closed, steady breath. Lord, bring her home. But in Shelby, fear had already begun to take root. Neighbors stopped letting their children play outside. Church sermons turned to warnings. And for the first time in memory, people began locking their doors before sunset. It was a town built on faith. And now faith felt like something that could be stolen. Everyone had a theory. Some whispered that maybe she'd been taken. Others said maybe she'd run away, though that made no sense. Asha was only 9. She had no reason to run. And yet the evidence, what little there was, suggested something deliberate. Her backpack on, her clothes neatly folded before bed. No sign of panic, no signs of struggle. It was as if she had planned to leave. But why? The following week brought more searches. Volunteers moved farther out, to the edges of Shelby, through thick woods and dirt roads few had driven before. And then on February 17th, 3 days after she vanished, they found something. A tiny, heart-shaped pencil sharpener, blue plastic, the kind every 9-year-old girl keeps in her school bag. It was lying in the mud off Highway 18, miles from her home, the same stretch of road where the truck driver said he saw her walking. It was Asha's. The discovery froze everyone in place. Her parents clutched it like it was a piece of her, proof she had really been there. But for investigators, it raised more questions than it answered. If she was there, why? And where did she go next? The story spread across the state, newspapers, radio, even national TV. A little girl, Valentine's Day, gone without a trace. Reporters described her as the mystery child who vanished into a storm. And they were right. It felt like the sky itself had swallowed her. But beneath the headlines, the truth was harder to look at. A family shattered. A mother who still set a plate for her daughter at dinner. A father who walked the road every night with a flashlight, hoping for a sign. And through it all, that same question whispered through the town like a curse. Why would she leave? Weeks passed. Flyers turned yellow in the rain. The media left. Searchers dwindled. But in the Degree household, time froze. Every sound still felt like her footsteps. Every night still carried the same dream, that maybe, somehow, she'd walk through the door again. Harold stopped sleeping. He would drive the same stretch of highway over and over, headlights cutting through fog, hoping for movement in the woods. He said sometimes he'd swear he saw her. A shadow on the shoulder of the road, a flash of white, her shirt, maybe. But when he'd stop and get out, nothing. Just rain. Asha's room became a shrine. Her mother dusted it daily. Her Bible stayed open. The little heart-shaped sharpener sat on her desk, exactly where it had been found. Each morning, Aquila would look at it and whisper, "Baby girl, we're still looking." And each night, she would whisper again, "Don't be afraid, we'll find you." But the days kept passing. The silence kept deepening. And in that silence, rumors began to grow. Some said she might have been seen near a green car that morning. Others said she was running from something. But there was no proof, only stories. And stories in a town like Shelby can spread like wildfire. Time has a cruel way of softening details, of turning moments into memories and memories into ghosts. But for the Degree family, time didn't heal. It only hollowed. Days blurred into weeks, weeks into months, and still there was no sign of Asha. The flyers stayed up, taped to stop signs, pinned to grocery store corkboards, fluttering against the wind like lost prayers. Her face, the shy smile, the big brown eyes, became a symbol in Shelby, a reminder of how fragile safety could be. But behind that image was something more painful: the weight of not knowing. Detectives worked every angle they could imagine. They interviewed neighbors again and again. They traced the steps from her home to Highway 18, mapping out every possible path a 9-year-old girl could take in the dark. It didn't make sense. There were no streetlights between her neighborhood and the highway. The road was narrow, wet, and dangerous. For a child terrified of dogs and thunderstorms, walking alone through a storm seemed unthinkable, unless something or someone made her do it. In the weeks that followed, 2 drivers came forward. They both said the same thing. A young girl around 9, walking south along Highway 18 in the early hours of that rainy morning. She wasn't crying. She wasn't running. She was walking with purpose, like she knew where she was going. One driver turned his car around, worried she might be lost. But as his headlights hit the shoulder again, she vanished, disappeared into the woods. That detail would haunt the investigation for years, because the woods along Highway 18 were thick, tangled, and endless. And beyond them, miles of farmland and back roads that seemed to stretch forever. Police focused on a 1-mile radius, then 5, then 10. Search dogs traced faint scents, each time fading near the same spot on the road. It was as if she had stepped off the shoulder and vanished into thin air. That stretch of highway became sacred ground, a place her parents returned to over and over, leaving flowers and small pink ribbons on the fence line. Each visit felt like a conversation with someone who couldn't answer back. As spring came, the town moved on, slowly, reluctantly. Children returned to school, reporters left, and the Degree family began to live inside their grief, learning how to smile just enough to make others believe they were okay. But behind closed doors, they weren't okay. Asha's mother started waking up in the middle of the night, convinced she heard footsteps in the hallway. Her father started leaving the porch light on every night, without fail. He said, if she's out there, she should see a light when she comes home. It never went out again. Nearly a year passed before anything new surfaced. It was August 3rd, 2001, 18 months after Asha disappeared. A construction crew was clearing land off Highway 18, about 26 miles north of Shelby. They were digging near an old shed, the ground thick with roots and red Carolina clay. And that's when they found it. A black book bag, buried. It was wrapped in 2 plastic bags, carefully, deliberately. Inside, there were children's clothes, and tucked among them, a library book. The book was from Asha's school library, checked out in her name. The discovery reignited everything. Police cordoned off the area, searching for bones, hair, any sign of human remains. But there was nothing, just that bag, hidden, preserved, like someone wanted it to be found someday. To her parents, it felt like both a clue and a taunt. Her mother said quietly, she didn't put that bag there. Somebody did. The idea settled over Shelby like smoke. If someone buried her belongings, then someone had her. Detectives followed every lead the bag offered. They sent it to the FBI. They analyzed the soil. They searched the entire area. But it yielded nothing else. No trace of Asha. No trace of who might have placed it there. And so, the story sank back into silence again. The Degree family's hope dimmed, but didn't die. They held prayer vigils. They lit candles every Valentine's Day. They left a single gift for her each year, as if she might return to open it someday. She's out there, her mother said. I can feel it. But the years stretched, and the questions deepened. If she left home willingly, what was she leaving for? If someone lured her, how did they convince her to step out into the storm? No ransom note, no threats, no fingerprints, just a missing child and a road that seemed to swallow her whole. Sometimes late at night, Harold Degree would drive that road again, the same headlights tracing the same curve, through mist and memory. He said he would slow near the spot where the trucker saw her and listen. to the wind through the trees, to the hum of the rain, to the possibility that maybe, just maybe, she'd whisper something back. But she never did. By the second anniversary of her disappearance, the story had faded from national news. But in Shelby, it lingered like an open wound. Children who were 9 when Asha vanished were now 11, old enough to remember, but too young to understand why. Her school held a small ceremony, a bench dedicated to her memory, pink ribbons tied around the oak tree she used to pass on her way to class. Her classmates said they still kept her desk empty, just in case. Years later, new detectives would take over the case. Fresh eyes, new technology, more resources. But even with the FBI involved, every lead seemed to circle back to the same 2 questions. Why did she leave? And who was she with? Some believed she was lured by someone she knew, someone who promised safety, friendship, maybe even adventure. Others believed she was taken, and her backpack buried as a way to erase the trail. There was no proof of either, only theories and a silence that grew heavier with time. Every year on February 14th, the Degree family gathered at their church. They would stand before the congregation, the same congregation that had watched Asha grow up, and they would pray for answers, for peace, for the truth. Some years, the crowd was large. Some years was only a handful of people holding candles in the cold. But always, always, her parents spoke the same words. We haven't given up. We never will. The road where she vanished still looks the same today. Narrow, quiet, lined with trees that whisper when the wind blows through. Sometimes passing cars slow down near that stretch, not because they expect to see her, but because they can feel something there, an ache in the air, a memory you can't quite name. They call it the place where the girl disappeared. And in Shelby, everyone still remembers her name, Asha Degree, 9 years old, vanished into the rain. Time doesn't stop when a child goes missing. It only becomes heavier. It doesn't move forward, it drags. Every day stretches like an unanswered question for the Degree family. The world had split into 2 timelines. The life before Asha disappeared and the life after. There was no middle ground anymore. The world outside their home kept turning. Seasons changed, children grew. The rhythm of Shelby life carried on. But inside the Degree home, time stayed frozen on February 14th, 2000. The years following Asha's disappearance became a cycle of hope and heartbreak. Tips came in hundreds of them, and everyone carried the same small spark. Maybe this one will be real. Some were cruel hoaxes. Some were mistaken sightings. But each one forced her parents to reopen the wound all over again. Once, a woman in a nearby town claimed she'd seen a girl matching Asha's description at a convenience store. She said the girl looked scared, quiet, like she didn't belong. Investigators rushed there. Surveillance footage was pulled. By the time they arrived, the girl was gone, and the video quality too poor to confirm anything. Another time, a letter arrived. No return address. Just 4 words. She's still with us. The police analyzed it, traced it, tested for prints. Nothing. The letter led nowhere, just like everything else. Hope became a strange thing for her parents, both a comfort and a curse. It was the only thing that kept them going, but it was also the thing that wouldn't let them rest. Aquila once said in an interview, "People tell us to move on, but how do you move on when your child is out there, maybe scared, maybe waiting for you to find her?" Her voice cracked when she said it, and behind her in the family's living room, Asha's school portrait still hung above the couch. Her small, careful smile framed in gold. It had never been taken down. As a 5th anniversary passed, detectives revisited the old files. They started from zero again. The same photos, the same witness statements, the same heart-shaped pencil sharpener found on the side of the road. They hoped maybe time would offer new understanding. It didn't. The file grew thicker, the answers thinner. Even with the FBI's involvement, new technology, databases, cross-state coordination, there was still nothing concrete. No suspects, no body, no trace of the child who vanished into a storm. But something strange happened in 2004. A tip surfaced from a prisoner in another state. He claimed to know what happened to Asha Degree. He said she'd been taken, accidentally killed, and buried somewhere near Shelby. Detectives listened. He gave details, names, locations, even described an old house near the area where the backpack was found. For a moment, it felt like the truth was finally close. Search teams were sent. They dug through acres of overgrown land. They found animal bones, trash, nothing human. When confronted again, the prisoner changed his story. He said he made it up for attention. And just like that, the brief flicker of hope was gone again. Still, her parents refused to surrender. Each year on Valentine's Day, they held a march, walking the same stretch of Highway 18 where she was last seen. Hundreds joined them. They wore shirts printed with her face, and the words, "Our baby's still missing." They prayed, they cried, they told stories about her laugh, her love for basketball, her gentle way of asking questions. They said her name again and again, as if speaking it could keep her spirit alive in the world. And maybe in some way it did, because in Shelby, people never stopped talking about her. Children who were babies, when Asha vanished, grew up hearing her story. They'd pass that stretch of road and whisper, "That's where the little girl disappeared." The woods, thick and shadowed, seemed almost alive, like they were keeping secrets no one could pry open. Some said you could still feel her presence there, not haunting, just waiting. And on quiet nights when the rain fell soft against the leaves, the sound was said to carry, like footsteps, like someone small still walking. In 2015, 15 years after her disappearance, the FBI released an age progression photo of Asha Degree. She would have been 24, a grown woman. But in that image, she still looked like the same little girl. Her features softened, her eyes still bright, her innocence still visible. Her mother looked at that photo for a long time. She said she'd still be smiling. I know she would. And for a moment, the years collapsed. For a moment, Asha wasn't a mystery. She was just a daughter, still out there, somewhere smiling. In 2016, investigators received another anonymous tip. It mentioned a house in the nearby town of Lawndale, a place known for old sheds, abandoned lots, and deep woods. The tipster claimed Asha's body might be buried there. The FBI, state police, and local officers conducted a full search. They dug up the ground behind the house. Dogs were brought in. They found bone fragments. But once again, testing revealed the truth no one wanted to hear. The remains weren't human. And so, the long silence continued. What's left after years of searching? When every lead fades, every road turns to dust, every hope ends the same way. For some families, it's closure, even if it comes in grief. But for the Degrees, there was no closure, only faith. They still attend the same church every Sunday, the same pew, the same prayers. Each year, they tell Asha's story again, to remind people that her name still matters, that she was more than a headline, more than a mystery. She was their little girl, and in a quiet voice. Her father always says the same thing. If she's alive, we're still waiting. If she's gone, we still need to bring her home. There's a stillness that comes after 25 years of unanswered questions. Not peace, just quiet, the kind of quiet that hums beneath everything. Sometimes, the Degrees say they feel her presence, not haunting, not lost, just close, like she's waiting, somewhere just out of reach. And maybe that's what hope really is. Not a light in the dark, but a heartbeat that refuses to stop, no matter how much time passes. The story of Asha Degree isn't finished. It lives in the empty road where she was last seen, in the rain that still falls every February, in the prayers whispered by a family that never stopped believing. Somewhere in the quiet spaces between memory and faith, her name still echoes. Ash. And as long as someone remembers her, she's never truly gone. When a mystery lingers for this long, it begins to collect stories. Not all of them are true, but each one is born from the same question. How does a 9-year-old girl vanish into the dark without a trace? Over the years, Three main theories have tried to explain what happened that night. None have brought peace, but all have tried to make sense of the impossible. Theory 1. The runaway. Investigators believe Asha left her home by choice. Quietly, deliberately. Her room was neat. She'd packed her backpack. No signs of forced entry. But the question that still lingers: why? Her parents insist there were no fights, no signs of unhappiness. No reason she'd want to leave. Yet detectives think something might have inspired her. A story she'd read in a school book about a girl who ran away and found adventure. For a child's imagination, that kind of story can feel like a door opening. And maybe she walked through it. But if she did, it wasn't an adventure that waited for her. It was danger. Theory 2. The stranger on the road. Multiple witnesses reported seeing her walking alone on Highway 18 that night. A small girl in white pants, a long-sleeved shirt, walking through the rain like she knew where she was going. A truck driver said he turned around to check on her, but by the time he came back, she was gone. Some investigators believe someone picked her up, a stranger. Maybe they offered warmth, shelter, safety. And Asha, cold and scared, accepted. It's a theory that hurts the most to imagine, because it suggests kindness betrayed her. If that's true, then the storm wasn't the only danger that night. Theory 3. The local secret. There's another possibility, whispered but never proven, that someone in the area knew her, that her disappearance wasn't random. Maybe she trusted them. Maybe that's why there was no struggle, no sign of panic. Some believe the truth lies close, not in distant towns or highways, but in the quiet corners of Shelby itself, a secret buried beneath the years. Even the FBI hinted at it once, that they believe Asha may have been lured by someone she knew, someone who used her innocence against her. It's the kind of thought that keeps her parents awake at night, because it means her kindness may have led her into the hands of someone she trusted. Whatever the truth is, it has stayed hidden for 25 years. The woods where she vanished are still there. The same trees, the same road, only the faces have changed. But every Valentine's Day, people still gather. They walk the road, they carry candles, and they say her name, Ash. She was 9 years old, full of love, full of questions, full of life. And somewhere, her story stopped before it should have. She was a daughter, a sister, a teammate, a child of faith. And even if the world forgets her story, her family never will. If you have any information about the disappearance of Asha Degree, please contact the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office or the FBI. Asha was last seen on February 14th, 2000, in Shelby, North Carolina. She would be 34 years old today.